Hello, everyone, and welcome back in for another week of Palmetto Playbook. I'm Alan Marcus Harder, the 5 p.m. and the 5:30 p.m. producer here at WMBF News.
I'm TJ Turner. I'm a digital content producer here at WMBF. And we had another good game from CCU this week to start off. They beat Georgia State 40-27 this week. Samari Collier has cemented himself as the starting quarterback for this Chanticleer offense.
Yeah, there's no doubt after this, having 4 total touchdowns, doing it all through the air and on the ground like we saw last week as well. Electrifying from the very beginning. The very first play from the line of scrimmage was a 80-something yard touchdown run. I mean, you can't go wrong when you start a game like that.
Yeah, we've talked about it the few weeks before this and leading up to that Marshall game about how he was really going to allow them to open up this offense, and adding that athletic ability that he has and that ability to run has definitely given a new dynamic to that offense, and I think it's definitely shown. I believe they've scored around 40 points 40 if not more points in the last 3 games now.
Yeah, it's 40-plus points in the last 3 games. And I know a big part of this is not even just through the air as well. They relied heavily on their run game, and their run game has come up huge. I believe they had like 324 total rush yards. I saw somewhere that was their most rushing yards in a game since like 2021. So, I mean, they're definitely doing it a lot through the ground, and that opens up the passing game as well when the defense has to try to stop the run game. That opens up the play action passes, the options, the RPOs, and stuff like that. And I think Tim Beck even mentioned that after the game as well in the presser. But yeah, the offense is clicking for Coastal, and that's a good thing to see. They've definitely turned things around the second half of the season.
And they're now 6-3 on the year. And after that game, they became the first team in South Carolina to be bowl eligible this year, as we had all suspected after the first couple weeks.
Yeah, who would have thought?
Yeah, they're now 5-1 in the Sun Belt as well, only behind JMU, who they do face to end the year. So if they can remain undefeated for the remainder of the year and go into that game and pull that one off, you could see them potentially in the Sun Belt Championship game. And it's looking like JMU might even have a shot at the playoff this year.
Yeah, James Madison they've been really good. The past couple of years, honestly. They're definitely going to be a tough team, and it's going to be a very tough matchup for Coastal if it comes down to that, because James Madison always has Coastal's number. The last few times they've played the game hasn't honestly been close, but yeah, But for Coastal, their mindset, and they mentioned it after the game as well, it's just taking it one game at a time. They'll cross that bridge if they get to it, but right now their focus is on Georgia Southern this weekend.
And then we had Clemson. Clemson pulled off a win this week against Florida State, 24-10. This game went very differently than their games have throughout the year. Their defense finally showed up in this one, only letting up 10 points to a Florida State offense that in the last few weeks hasn't looked as potent, but to start the year, they were putting up 50 and 60 points on everybody.
Yeah, last week I said I thought this was going to be the high-scoring game, but that turned out to be Coastal Georgia State. But, yeah, Clemson's defense finally coming up and getting stopping Florida State's offense, which I believe they were still ranked among the top offenses in college football. Florida State's defense hasn't been good, which have led them to some defeats throughout the season. But Clemson's defense coming up and doing a good job of containing that Florida State high-powered offense, and Clemson's offense, doing enough to put in enough points on the board to give them the win.
Yeah, if you would have told us last week that the Clemson offense put up 24 points, I would have thought there was no chance they would win this game.
Yeah, their defense. If you told me their offense put up 24, I would have said their defense probably put up 30. Gave up like 34 or something like that. But yeah, it's a shame it took Clemson like 10 games in the season to find the defense to win games like that against a somewhat tough opponent. I guess you could say that Florida State started the season off hot. They haven't looked the same in recent weeks, but it's still a good win over Florida State.
Yeah, and Clemson's now 4-5 on the year. They're going to need to put up 2 more wins to get themselves bowl eligible. Obviously, the Palmetto Bowl coming up at the end of the year will be a big game across the state. We'll have to see about that one. And the other team in that game, South Carolina, was off this week.
Yeah, it was the best week ever. Not having to sit through another South Carolina game.
Shane Beamer in his press conferences has been talking about all the practices, that how great they've been in practice. They've been the best team in the country in practice.
I mean, I did see Shane Beamer and Sean Elliott, the offensive line coach. I did see them Friday night and at Carver's Bay. They were out on the recruiting. Well, they were visiting a commitment, the 4-star offensive lineman from Carver's Bay, Zion Giles. Yeah, it was funny. I was assigned to cover the Carver's Bay game. I think they played like Allendale, Fairfax, or something like that. I get a text right before I leave the station, my brother saying that he saw Sean Elliott on Front Street in Georgetown. So I was like, all right, cool. So Sean Elliott's going to be at the game. I pull up to go cover the game, and lo and behold, Shane Beamer's standing right there beside him. I didn't say anything to him because I was only there for like 30 minutes, but I was like, yeah, between me and you, but to Shane Beamer and Sean Elliott, so that was kind of interesting.
Well, it's a good thing they're shoring up that offensive line. They're gonna need all the help they can get, and as long as they can keep Sellers around, he's gonna need some help next year in that offensive line.
Yeah.
And we had a big game this weekend that we didn't think was going to be a big game leading up to it. Number 2, Indiana against Penn State. This game I would have thought would have been a blowout. Penn State hasn't shown a whole lot this year after the first couple weeks, firing their coach just a few weeks ago. Haven't shown a whole lot of promise. But in this game, they showed a lot of fight, and they showed that they still are the football program that they have been in recent years, and it's not completely lost in State College up there in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, I mean, this is a huge test. I mean, if you're a Penn State fan, you're going to be upset of how it ended, how close the game was. But it's a huge testament to this Penn State team of not giving up on this season when things have gone. Obviously, it's not. I mean, they were like a preseason number 2 team in the country, and they were sitting at 3-5 heading into this game. Obviously, things have not gone well this season. Their starting quarterback out for the season with an injury. James Franklin getting fired midway through the season. But it takes a lot of heart and determination to come in and like not give up on the rest of the season, like to actually put up a fight against the number 2 team, Indiana. It was a good showing from Penn State. It kind of reminds me. I was thinking about it coming into this game. Kind of reminded me of like the South Carolina Alabama game, like because obviously we never thought South Carolina had a shot of beating Alabama, but they actually hung around, had a really good chance of winning late in the fourth quarter, but ended up giving up a late touchdown, which is exactly what happened to Penn State. But, yeah, I mean, it was good to see Penn State back to playing good football, even though they did come up short.
Yeah, it's definitely good to see. And you were talking about Drew Aller, Penn State's quarterback, going down this season, which was definitely rough to see for them, especially with how the season had gone. But Ethan Grunkemeyer has come in, and he's definitely stepped in and showed that he could potentially be a bright spot moving forward. And he actually outplayed Fernando Mendoza in this game, who a lot of people have all but handed the Heisman at this point.
Yeah, he was definitely one of the Heisman candidates leading Heisman candidates coming into this game. But, yeah, another good job from Penn State's quarterback to do what he needed to do to put the team in a position to win. Obviously, coming up short still, but I mean, a lot of bright signs for the future.
Yeah, it's definitely looking like Penn State isn't gonna have too much of a fall off following this rough season. It looks like they'll be able to bounce back pretty soon, if not this next season. Especially because you can tell with a game like this that they're still there, they're still fighting, and it doesn't look like they've lost any bit of the culture there. As you can see there, that was the final touchdown Indiana scored there. Barely got his foot in, made it by Penn State ended up losing this game by less than an inch.
Yeah, I mean, thank God this is college football, not pro football, because all you need is one foot. But that's a heck of a catch. I mean, the wherewithal to like contort your body midair to find a way to get that 1 foot in bounds. That's a heck of a play by the wide receiver.
Yeah, it's got to be backbreaking for those Penn State fans. This was a home game for Penn State, thinking you were going to pull off the upset against the number 2 team in the country, probably planning a field storm at this point.
Yeah. That also can remind me about the South Carolina Alabama game.
You can never plan the field storm too early.
No, you never should.
As soon as you start gathering up at the gates, getting ready for a field
You
storm,
gotta have that
something
game.
like this
You
is
gotta
going to
have
happen.
that. You gotta have that clock hit 0-0-0 before you can even think about doing something like that.
Yeah, and then moving on to the Panthers this week in the NFL, they've showed us this week that it's the same old Panthers we're used to seeing, ups and downs, and giving us false hope. As they had looked great throughout the year, and then they turn around and give the Saints their second win of the year, losing to New Orleans 17-7.
Right. I mean, Carolina started off strong. They got the first touchdown on the board you just saw from Rico Dowdle. Learned his lesson from last week.
Only one pump.
No, I don't think he did any pumps this week.
Oh, just in the position?
He was about to, but he decided not to because they fined him $7,000 per pump last week.
Pump fake on the pumps.
Yeah, which I mean, did you see the video that Keegan Michael Keel?
Yeah.
They recorded something for. But yeah, I mean, the Panthers team is a confusing team after this week.
They looked great all year. They're sitting at 5-4 coming into this game, just exceeding expectations. They were expected to win 6 games on the whole year. We expected this to be their 6th win on the year already. Yeah. And then they fall to a Saints team who hasn't shown much at all this season and was in the running for a number 1 overall pick. Not supposed to be a team that you lose to at this point in the year, especially with how good the Panthers have shown themselves to be so far.
Yeah, fresh off of a win against the Packers at Lambeau Field, coming back home to lose to a team that was 1-8. The quarterback for the Saints, Tyler Shook, I believe this was his first career start in the NFL after replacing Spencer Rattler. And I'll say selfishly, I was hoping that the offense for the Saints would struggle a little bit so we could possibly see Spencer Rattler come back in later in the season. I know they named Shook the starting quarterback for the rest of the season for the Saints. And, I mean, to his credit, he looked really good in this game, invading tackles in the pocket, extending plays, throwing on the run, doing all the right things. Had some really good throws for the Saints, which, yeah, I mean, this was a game that the Panthers should have won. I know there was I think some of the players were even talking after the game that I guess they weren't in the right headspace coming into this game. They took things lightly this week during practice. Maybe Shane Beamer can go up there and help turn things around for that.
He was off this week. He had time.
Yeah, but the Panthers, I mean, when you're in the NFL, every game is going to be tough, no matter what the record of the team across the line of scrimmage from you is. I mean, these are all professional athletes, the best of the best. So I mean, all these guys are quality players. I mean, you can't let up any second in the NFL. And I guess that's what the Panthers did for this week.
Yeah, and you were talking about Tyler Shook in his first start. He doesn't have necessarily the athletic ability and the ability to scramble that Spencer Rattler shows, but I think he showed a lot more poise in this game, which is, I think, what the Saints need at this point is they need somebody that can stand in that pocket, who can deliver throws, who can evade sacks within the pocket and use their athleticism, but not look to run and look to get out and to create plays as much as Spencer Rattler did. And I think they'll definitely be utilizing Shook's poise and his ability to stand in that pocket and deliver throws through pressure.
Yeah, he's definitely did a good job to cement his starter role, at least for probably the rest of the season.
And the Panthers are off to a very unpredictable start to the season. And across the NFL, it's definitely been an unpredictable start, an unexpected start to the season, as the top 3 teams in the NFL are the Colts, the Broncos, and the Patriots right now, which is definitely not what we had on our bingo card coming into this year. No. I think obviously the story of the year is the Colts. We've talked about them every week. They just continue to impress. They continue to win games. And I think we all were waiting for the point where where the wheels were going to fall off and the team was going to fall apart and sink to where we expected them to be. But I don't see that coming personally. It looks like this is just who the Colts are. And I think Daniel Jones has found his way in Indianapolis. Obviously, Jonathan Taylor has shown himself to be the top running back in the league as he was a few years ago. Obviously, a few down years, struggled with injury, and the team wasn't doing great for a couple seasons. But Jonathan Taylor is showing us that he is still that premier back in the NFL. And I believe he broke the record for all-purpose yards in this game.
I mean, that would make sense. He had like 200-something yards rushing, three rushing touchdowns, including the game winner in overtime. He had some receiving yards as well. I mean, I don't know what the record was beforehand, but he definitely had a heck of a stat
I
line.
believe it was the Colts running back record.
Okay,
Colts running back all-purpose
that
yards.
would make sense. But yeah, I mean, Daniel Jones doing things, busted lip and all.
Looked like he had lipstick on there.
Either that or it was like Halloween was just. He looked like the Joker without the white the face paint. But yeah. The Colts are a fun team to watch. They added a few pieces this week. I mean, they got Sauce Gardner on the defense with the Jets basically trading all their good. They're going full tank mode. So yeah.
Yeah, Daniel Jones at this point is looking like an MVP candidate.
Yeah, that's insane.
Which is crazy to say, but he is currently leading the NFL in passing yards. Jonathan Taylor's leading the NFL in rushing yards. As this week he was the first running back this season to eclipse 1,000 rushing yards. I believe he's up to 1,100 now. And Daniel Jones has just looked like the best quarterback in the NFL, which is something crazy to say, especially after he was essentially forgotten about by the Giants. He was released by the Vikings last season.
Yeah.
And then at the Colts, they were talking about him possibly being Anthony Richardson's backup and just being around just in case they needed him. And now we're 10 games into the season, and he's looking like the MVP.
Yeah, it's crazy. We're living in a real life Madden simulation or something like this, because who would have thought Daniel Jones would be in this position he is right now?
Yeah, they've been talking about potentially having him as an MVP candidate, but I know it's a quarterback award, but I think if the Colts can keep this up, I believe personally Jonathan Taylor deserves the award more than anybody.
Yeah, for sure.
We've had an unexpected start to the season for some teams. For others, there was an expected firing this week. Who our producer Carrie is I don't know if she's too happy about this one, but I know she's not happy about the Giants' season so far. As Brian Daboll was fired this week after a 2-8 start for New York.
Yeah, honestly, I was this is me just I guess not realizing how down of a season the Giants have had. I didn't realize they were only 2-1. I know they had that win over the Eagles, so I thought they were in a better position. But then looking at their record, I was like, oh, this firing makes sense now.
Yeah, watching the games and just seeing like social media and everything, if you didn't check the stats and the record, you'd think the Giants were doing well this season with all the hype and the energy around Cam Scatterbo and Jackson Dart. And obviously they've been plagued by injuries this season. Cam Scatterbo went down. Malik Neighbors went down really early in the year. Kind of their two young pieces to that offense and the weapons that they're looking to utilize to score points and put up yards in those games, but they just don't have the firepower without those two guys.
Yeah, and Daboll was the offensive coordinator for the Bills, right? Okay, so yeah, this is his, I believe, first season with the Giants, or is it first?
Second, I believe.
Okay, but yeah, a down year. Another NFL coach. Yeah.
I feel like we're going to see probably potentially a couple more firings before the end of the season. Obviously, the Saints are struggling. The Jets are struggling. The Jets, I would think, would be the next team that I would see make a change because they're literally getting rid of their whole roster at this point.
Yeah. I know Mike McDaniel with the Dolphins, he was in a position they were struggling. I think he responded with the win over the Bills this week, so probably extended his stay in South Beach a little bit longer.
He was chirping the fans in South Beach, too. There's a clip of him driving by, I believe, in a Rolls-Royce, driving by one of the Buffalo Bills bars down there near the stadium, driving home from the game, and he was chirping some of the fans outside on the street. But, yeah, he definitely bought himself some time with that big win over the Bills this week. And college hoops, we talked about last week, starting off the season. And South Carolina men's and women's teams are both off to a hot start. Obviously, South Carolina's women's team you expect to be undefeated, if not near undefeated, towards the end of the year. So this hot start for them is definitely to be expected.
That men's team, though, they almost had a shocker on, I guess that was Sunday. They played Southern Miss at home, and they had the lead, I think, at halftime. But Southern Miss came out second half, got a lead. It came down to the wire. Michi Johnson, I think, finished with like 30-something points in the game. He had to hit 2 free throws right there at the end of the game just to send the game into overtime. It was so Michi Johnson and the freshman Eli Ellis. You've probably seen him on Instagram. His highlights are going viral in high school. He's a true freshman. This is his first year. And he's had a pretty good start. I think he only had like 11 points that starting game. I can't remember exactly who they maybe. I think it was like North Carolina A&T. I think they started the season off with. But yeah, he had like he put another decent showing in this game against Southern Miss. But yeah.
Yeah, and then Coastal Carolina's off to an okay start to the season. Each of their teams, the women's team 1-1, the men's team so far 1-2 on the season.
I think it was the other way around.
The men's team is 1-1 and the women's team is 1-2 to start the year. The men's and women's programs at Coastal are kind of up in the air at this point. We're not really sure what to expect, especially from the women's team, because I believe most of the roster is new incoming players, whether it's transfers, freshmen. They don't have a whole lot of players returning this season.
Yeah, I mean, if you had to pick one of those two teams to follow for this season, I'd say the women's team are probably going to have more success. I know they had a really good year last year, and I know one of the losses at least was to BYU. So I mean, a pretty good team. I think they lost to Miami of Ohio to start the season at home. A slow start, but they clawed their way back into that game. I expect more from the women's team than the men's team at least for this season. At least given how things have turned out in the past few years, the men's team are trying to find an identity. I think they had like 10 wins last season. They have their one win this season, which I was kind of shocked. They were playing a school called, what was it, like Lynchburg or Virginia Lynchburg or something like that. And I was making the joke that I guess this is just a funny way of saying Coastal's rival, Liberty, which also happens to be in that city. But yeah, they put up like 120-something points that game, which I had to look it up. I guess that was like, I've never even heard of the division that Lynchburg, Virginia played, or Virginia Lynchburg, whatever that school's called. But yeah.
They were taking out some of that anger they have on the other team in Lynchburg. But yeah, Justin Gray's definitely still trying to find his identity with that Coastal basketball program as he goes into, I believe, his second year.
Yeah.
Yeah, taking over for a coach that had been there forever.
Yeah.
Been in the program for years and years before him. To take over that program is obviously going to put him in a rough spot to start, and he's still trying to find his identity. 10 wins last year. I think the main thing that they're working for in that men's program would just be to stack more wins each year with Justin Gray. As long as they can get more wins than they had the year before, I think they'll be happy with this season if they can just keep continuing to progress.
Yeah, and I know one thing that helped them in that game against Lynchburg, Virginia, they shot the three ball really well. And so I don't know if that's just something that they're going to rely on throughout the season or if it just happened to be a one-off type thing. But yeah, I mean, if you can get the outside shooting going, I mean, that's all. That's 3 points are better than 2 points, and that always helps.
That was always my motto when I played. I was always stuck outside the 3-point line. And I was usually a little too far outside the 3-point line for most of my
going Steph Curry out there.
I was usually a little too far outside the 3-point line for my coach's liking, but as long as they went in, they count the same whether you're 35 feet away or 25 feet away.
Yeah, just make sure you're not going like 1 of 9 out there. You got to have at a consistent pace out there.
Yeah, Clemson's men's and women's teams are both off to 2-0 starts as well. And Clemson's men's and women's teams both have pretty decent expectations for this season. I don't think anybody expects them to be kind of like one of those top elite teams in the country, but I think they should definitely be towards the top of the ACC.
Yeah, I mean, Clemson's men's team, they've looked pretty good the past couple of years. Last year, I think it was last year, they got upset in the first round of McNeese. Mm-hmm. They've put together really good regular seasons. Yeah, with Brad Bromell. Their women's teams have also coming around too. I remember the past like if you asked me like a decade or just like 5 years ago, their women's team has not really been good. I feel like they've made a few good recruiting gets, and the women's team's looking more promising. Obviously, it's not on the same level as South Carolina, but they're definitely in a much better position now that they have been in the past couple of years. But the Clemson's men's team is a team to watch for. I believe they started the season in the preseason top 25, and they have some good pieces to work around.
Yeah, and as you were saying, that Clemson women's basketball team is definitely turning the corner and definitely looking on the way up, and we'll get to see exactly how far they've come tonight as we're recording this on Tuesday. You guys will be watching on Wednesday, and the game will have already happened by now. But they'll have a chance to show their play against the South Carolina women's team, who obviously in women's basketball is the team to beat.
Yeah, either them or UConn. I mean, South Carolina, this is probably like a revenge year after losing to pretty massive losses to UConn last year. The UConn blew them out the water at Colonial Life Arena, and then again in the national championship game. But yeah, this is a South Carolina team that's looking to prove their spot once again in the stage. I mean, Dawn Staley's a heck of a coach, and she's got the pieces to do it. We'll see how things turn out. I mean, obviously, I think South Carolina will beat Clemson, but this Clemson's team's it might be a closer game than it has been in years past. This Clemson women's team is getting better year by year. Obviously, there's still, I think, maybe this is me being biased, there's still a very large gap between the two programs, but Clemson's they're doing better.
Yeah, and we'll get to see exactly how big that gap is tonight with that game. We'll see how much they have closed the gap, because South Carolina, they've started the season, they've put up 144 points, 120 points on. Obviously, they're playing lesser opponents at this point in the year, kind of their tune-up games to get ready for the season. But there's not many teams in the country that can stop that South Carolina team. And we'll just see exactly how close Clemson has come to that team this week. And sticking with basketball, the Charlotte Hornets have lost a few games in a row here as they fall to 3-6 on the season so far. One of the bright spots on this team, the rookie who they drafted this season out of Duke, Con Knueppel, he's averaging 16 points and 6 rebounds on the year so far, which has put him in Rookie of the Year conversations, which we'll be following all year. Obviously, you've got Cooper Flagg, who is playing for the Mavericks right now, who's been playing great. VJ Edgecombe for the Sixers so far this season. And then Con Knueppel's in that conversation as well. I believe those three are leading the race right now for that Rookie of the Year conversation. And right now, with how young and I don't want to say undeveloped, but with how young and kind of unproven this Charlotte Hornets roster is, I think Con Knueppel is going to get every opportunity to get as many minutes as possible in this rookie season, and will have all the tools in front of him for him to win that award.
Yeah, and if he's continuing to average 16 points and 6 rebounds, I mean, there's no reason for him not to be out there on the court. I think we've mentioned the past couple of episodes that there's a lot of young talent for the Hornets that I guess they just need to figure out how to mesh together as an actual team instead of a bunch of individuals. But this is definitely a project in process, a work in progress for the Hornets, and we'll see how that goes for the rest of the season.
Yeah, and they're one of the teams in the NBA that's really playing those young guys. They've got two rookies that are starting right now. They have Brandon Miller and LaMelo Ball have been out so far this season for a lot of the games, which has given more opportunities to the two rookies in Con Knueppel and Ryan Kalkbrenner. Ryan Kalkbrenner has started every game, and I believe he's going to start for the rest of the year, as he's their best center on the roster at this point after getting rid of Mark Williams in the offseason. And then Con Knueppel, I believe, will be probably put into a 6-man role once Brandon Miller comes back, as he's their premier wing out there. Coming out of Alabama, he's had a few good seasons to start his career, and I believe he'll have that starting job. And it'll be interesting to see if Con Knueppel gets moved to that 6-man role, or if they're going to start him and Brandon Miller on the wings coming forward for the rest of the season. And we'll be keeping you guys updated with how the Hornets are doing on the year. Obviously, the year's still young, and we'll be keeping you guys updated with them. And then moving over to hockey, the Carolina Hurricanes are now 11-4 on the year, as they just have a 4-game winning streak, and they're looking to win their 5th game tonight, Tuesday, which you guys will know the outcome. Hopefully there's a 5-game winning streak to be had tomorrow, having to be had tonight, and you'll find out tomorrow about that game.
Yeah, I mean, for the Hurricanes, I think we mentioned last week about how they were on a downslope, losing a few games in a row, but they quickly respond with a winning streak of their own. Just a long season to go, obviously, but I mean, with 11-4 record, I mean, you can't can't be too upset with that. They're in a good position to keep things going for the rest of the season.
Last week we were talking about, like you just said, they had a bit of a slide there, losing in a few games. But then after this 4-game winning streak, which hopefully they can stretch it to 5, they are now sitting atop the division, which I believe they were third last episode when we were talking about them. Yeah, they've moved all the way up to that top spot in the division. And same with the Hornets, young season. There's obviously a lot of games to be had, and we'll be keeping you guys updated here on Palmetto Playbook every week with how they're doing. And looking ahead to next week, we've got some big games big ranked games for the teams in South Carolina, as the Gamecocks will be playing at College Station against number 3 ranked Texas A&M. This game would be a monumental upset if they could pull this off.
Yeah, I see in the rundown you put upset and alert, and I will say right here, the only thing that's going to be upset after this game is going to be my mental state having to sit through another loss from South Carolina. That's my hot. Well, I don't even say that's not even a hot take. I mean, South Carolina starting the season 2-0. Since then, they've lost. I think their record is like 1-6. So and going up against the undefeated Texas A&M team at College Station. I mean, I guess their only saving grace is that this is going to be an 11 a.m. local kickoff time. Maybe Texas A&M has a late night on Friday night. They're not ready. They're still tired. They haven't woken up yet. But and this will also be interesting to see, because this will be the first game without a new offensive or a new play caller for South Carolina, and we've seen this season teams have success after like making coaching changes. You can think of UCLA after they're firing their coach, they upset Penn State, which may not even be that big of a win, considering how down Penn State went after that game. Which, I mean, obviously we all already talked about how well they played against Indiana, and then Penn State, obviously they firing James Franklin and then going out and almost beating Indiana. So, I mean, it could be a change we could see some more bright spots for South Carolina's offense, maybe, with Mike Shula no longer calling the plays. I think they're working as a group to like come up with a game plan. I can't remember his first name, but Furry or something like that. The call the plays for the actual on game day. But Texas A&M is obviously a really good team, and I don't see if they're going to have enough to get it done.
If we can see that South Carolina team that showed up in that Alabama game, I think you could see a potential for an upset in this one. That game against Alabama was in Williams-Brice Stadium, which does help out South Carolina a lot. That stadium is a really hard place to play for everybody, and you can say the same thing about College Station for Texas A&M. And given the fact that they do have that advantage of playing at Kyle Field with that 12th man that they're always praising about in Texas, and having A&M with this home game, with how good they've been this far in the season, obviously undefeated, number 3 team in the country, South Carolina is going to need that team that showed up against Alabama and then some in order to pull this one off.
It's not going to be just that team. We're going to need a lot of help if we're going to try to pull off an upset. I mean, I wish I could say I'm some type of confident, but I think there's a reason South Carolina's like an 18.5-point underdog in this game.
Things are definitely looking bleak in this one for South Carolina, but we'd like to have hope.
Yeah.
And then Clemson has a ranked matchup this week as well, as they're going to be going to Louisville to play against number 15 ranked Louisville. And they're coming off that win against Florida State, which would definitely help them in this one, because that Louisville offense can put up a lot of points, and they're going to need that defense to show up as they did against Florida State in order to have a chance in this game.
Yeah, and this is a Louisville team still like fighting for a possible ACC championship berth. So obviously they need to win this game just as much as Clemson does. With Clemson's struggles, so I don't know if we'll see the same team. I mean, they've been like, Clemson has just been up and down throughout this whole season. I don't know which version of the team you're going to get out on Saturday. So with that, I mean, I feel like I have to lean more towards Louisville. I think they've been more consistent so far this season. So yeah, and also they have the home field advantage.
Yeah, Louisville was playing well all year, and then they picked up that big win against Miami, which I think that was the game where Carson Beck threw 4 interceptions. I believe, and that big win definitely propelled them into this top 15 ranking, and it's looking like they're going to have a chance at that ACC championship game if they can continue to win. It looks like Georgia Tech has all but solidified their spot in that game, with their only real tough opponent moving forward being that game against Georgia, which I don't think, win or lose, that game should affect the ACC championship game. I think Georgia Tech's done enough this season to be in that game. And
Yeah.
Louisville, if they can win this one and continue to win out, I believe that they will be the team that they see in that championship game against Georgia Tech. The ACC has been crazy this year.
Yeah, it's 1 week and everything's changed around.
Yeah, you had Virginia as the favorite to be in the playoff. They were
Yeah.
supposed to be I believe a 9 seed in the first playoff rankings, and then they go on and lose to Wake Forest. And then the other teams in the ACC were all shaken up this week as well. So then Louisville jumps ahead. So the only consistent team this thus far in the ACC has been that Georgia Tech team. So I think you'll see them in that ACC championship game. And then this game between Clemson and Louisville will definitely have some implications on that game as well.
Yeah, and that's another tough test for an in-state team for Clemson, or not in-state as in like they're playing an in-state team, but Clemson being from South Carolina, another tough game for a team from South Carolina.
Yeah, and CCU's got a chance to extend that winning streak that they're on so far right now, and they've got a game against Georgia Southern this week. Another one that I think they should win. This is a game that we expect them to win. Obviously, any given Saturday and Sun Belt opponent, it can be a tough game at Georgia Southern. It's an away game, so things could be a little different, but it's a game that you expect the Chanticleers to win.
Yeah, I think Georgia Southern, I haven't followed their season too closely. I think they're getting good at the right spot. I believe they're sitting at a 4-5 record. They're coming off of a win over App State. I think they lost to Arkansas State the week before. But, it's still going to be a tough game for Coastal. I was kind of shocked to see Coastal, as of right now, at least by ESPN, they're a 2-point underdog going on the road to Georgia Southern, which, with the way Coastal's offense is played, I think they're going to be a tough Coastal will be a team, another Sun Belt team doesn't want to be facing right now. Coastal, we talked about earlier, putting up 40-plus points for 3 straight weeks now. We'll see if the Coastal's offense can keep the ball moving again this weekend.
Yeah, if they can put up another 40 points and continue that streak of 40-point games, I think they'll pull this one off against Georgia Southern. Obviously, as you were saying, they're 2-point underdogs in this game, which I don't think shows how good this Coastal team has been over the past couple weeks. Obviously, the entire body of work on the year isn't up to par exactly as you would like them to be, but the team as of right now, that Coastal team is not a team that you want to play in the Sun Belt.
Yeah, I would. If you're another Sun Belt team, unless you're like James Madden that has the historical success over Coastal, but we talked about it throughout the season. This Coastal team is much different now than they were just a couple weeks ago. Go after that East Carolina game, I would have never expected we're sitting here talking about a potential way for Coastal to get into the Sun Belt championship game. But yeah,
it's going to be a tough game against James Madison at the end of the year. But Coastal, as you said, they were talking about in the press conference and all week that they're taking this one game at a time, because if they can't pull off this game against Georgia Southern, that game against James Madison won't mean much for the Sun Belt championship at all.
They have to win this game to even think about the game against James Madison. But yeah, hopefully we'll see the same Coastal offense come out and take care of business. But yeah. They're a lot more exciting to watch though now than they were earlier in the season.
The first couple of games were definitely a rough watch. And we'll see you guys back here next week to recap all these games. Hopefully we've got 3 wins for the state of South Carolina.
I'd be happy with 2. But until then, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, all those good things, and we'll see you here next week.